Hello people. This here is the question that I plan to tackle during this video and the next following few videos. Rather than do them all in one shot, I'm going to split this video up into 6 parts. The reason for that is that I want to highlight a semi-complex argument or a set of thoughts that has a few different angles to it. And I can't actually do that all in one video. I have before stayed up for something like, well, I've done a video in all hours outside of other tasks, and that's just not practical. The main question is what's going to happen when Pluto goes into the gate 41, and that's in January 30th, 2025. Now I need to explain why Pluto going into the gate 41 is significant. And to answer this question, I'm going to have to go into the past, the present, and obviously the future. This is a future event. And to do that, I'm going to need to tackle 2 other points here. I wanted to explain the astrology of lockdown with Saturn and Pluto's conjunction in the gate 61. I think it was January 12th, 2020, and that's gate 61.3. With the aid of the law of one, I'm going to talk about the gate 61, the gate 60, and the gate 41, and how the metaphor or the explanation of these hexagrams perfectly aligns with how reality manifested when the lockdown happened. A point here, a small thing I've put together, is this high, medium and low section that you see in front of you. I just wanted to label these so that people know what they're getting. So the high areas are law of one stuff, human design stuff, sort of celestial, grand plan sort of things. The medium stuff is the stuff that relates most to people. And that's things like metaphors of the lockdown. So talking about it in a way that nothing unobjective is really mentioned. It's just this is the reality that we experienced. And discussion of concepts like philosophy, which is relevant to this video. It might not be obvious why that is yet, but I will come to why that's relevant. And then the low is something that I have had to include because it does have relevance. I wanted to explain how I experienced the gate 41 when Pluto went there briefly between April 11th and May 24th. Explain how it affected my worldview, what I'm kind of thinking of it. Because the truth is I have more information on my life. I live with it 24/7, whereas politics is very difficult to get a handle on. So I'm going to try and explain as metaphor the gate 41 in my life, and maybe this is what it means, and then maybe that can be brought out to the larger picture by the audience, by anyone observing. Some additional points here of what I will be including. In part 3, in the philosophy section, I wanted to talk about the masculine drive for status. This is an incredibly profound point, I think, and it comes to the kind of masculine darkness, but it's only dark because our society doesn't tackle these things head on. But if you think about it, the entire of society was built from the male drive for status. A guy gets a job, he wants to work in the world because he wants status fundamentally, or at least status is something that ideally would go along with that. You look at every single house, every single electronic device, almost. This is almost all driven by men's need to achieve, in a sense. This is important a little bit to my own journey as such. It will become obvious why it's important, but it hooks into philosophy. Notably, I think, in the fact that philosophy is largely male. It's largely male thoughts, male thinking, and So that's where you can kind of go, I think, as a guy, if you are having difficulty with the whole status thing. That's a small part of why it's relevant. I already just mentioned why I'd be mentioning my own experience of the Gate 41, and I've already mentioned the last point there, I think. And as part of my explanation of my own personal journey as thoughts, I'm going to talk about this video here, which I got wrong, I think. So I separated it out into kind of two sides of me that have always seemed to wrestle each other, and music's on the one side and healing's on the other. And I decided that I'm just not compatible with healing, but I'm going to re-go over some of that and see where I got that wrong and draw out what I believe can be a very powerful concept within the human design. So 2 additional points here. I do not believe in forgiveness without contrition, and that kind of thing changes your whole perspective. I have many deleted videos now, so it's probably not up anymore. But it strikes me that if I'm going to say something like that, if I don't believe in forgiveness without contrition, then a lot of forgiveness obviously can't happen. And I need to come up with an additional explanation of how healing happens and such like that. That might not be for this video, in fact, but it's just something I thought I'd mention. I don't believe in forgiveness without contrition, therefore there are sort of negative thoughts that are rolling about, which might be talked about in some of those low sections, in some of those personal explanations, and that is fine with me, you know. One of the beliefs that I want to talk about or challenge slightly maybe is the idea, when I go through my personal experience, that when we do the thing that we are meant to do, life just kind of works out for us. And it's something that I've absorbed a lot of being around the law of one types of philosophy, types of things. And it's going to become a theme here, trying to come away from the abstractness associated with the law of one, not the law of one itself, but some of the abstractness, some of the spiritual types of ideas and people around those sorts of things, and coming over to philosophy, which is far more grounded. Like with philosophy, you can't really say anything unless you can explain that thing almost. And the spiritual version of looking at things has far more magical thinking, so far more things that you're sort of meant to just believe without really seeing any evidence for those things. And here is the plan for the video. I won't go through each point here, it's pretty obvious. I've kind of explained enough on this list here, but these are what each video will be. So I hope this hasn't been frustrating to listen to, because I'm not actually talking about anything in this video. I'm just describing what I will talk about. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I'll perhaps see you in the next video.